He certainly wasn't happy with finding an Englishman laid out in his garden on Sunday morning.
Hi everybody and welcome to Gravel Union Talks. Gravel Union Talks is a podcast series full of inspiring stories, news and events from the world of gravel. Each month we will be talking with guests who are passionate about riding off the beaten track. Adventure riding, bikepacking and gravel racing. I'm your host Carlo and Olly is at the other end of the line. Hey Olly, how you doing?
Very good, thank you. Actually underwater at the minute because it's pretty wet.
It's horrible. UK. It's horrible. I mean, What happened? Can we go off-road? It's hard to get off the road.
You can, but you have to have mud guards and mud tyres, and then you spend an hour washing your bike after every ride. So yeah, the novelty's worn off now.
It's impossible. For today's episode, we're going to be chatting with Grinduro's head honcho, James Dean. Grinduro, for anyone who hasn't heard of it, it's a global gravel event series, but with a slightly alternative way of doing things. We're going to get the inside scoop from James about what their events are all about and discover their plans for 2024 and beyond. But yeah, that's for later. Well, let's head over to the website, Olly. What's the biggest news item on gravelunion.cc of the last month?
We're going to start with a competition, and actually this fits very well with our weather chat. The weather here in Europe is awful, but the weather elsewhere in the world is much nicer. And we've got a big competition we're going to be launching this month to win a place on a multi-day gravel riding event in Sri Lanka called Ride Sri Lanka 2024. And the prize is going to be for entry into the event and flights from London Heathrow, courtesy of Sri Lankan Airlines, who are one of the sponsors of the event. So it's a really good prize. I was super lucky last year. I got to go out to Sri Lanka to research the region and see whether it would be suitable for gravel riding and gravel holidays and gravel events like this one, and we decided it definitely was. And now there's a number of different ones that are starting this year, but the one that we're involved with is this one, Ride Sri Lanka. So when the newsletter goes out to our Gravel Union members later this month, there'll be a competition details in there, and the prize is entry into the event and flights from London Heathrow. So it's a really super good prize.
That's a big prize. And how long is the trip?
It's long, actually, so 10 days. So it starts on the 3rd of March and it finishes on the 13th of March. So it's good, multi-day, not every day cycling. There's some days of relaxing. There's some sightseeing days. You go and look at the local wildlife, and the scenery is just mind-blowing. So there's plenty of things to do off the bike as well as on the bike.
Well, there's a big prize. We already had the bikes.
It's good. I want to win it myself.
Yeah, probably were excluded.
Sadly,
yes. Well, I wanted to go there, but it's out there for you to win. So check out our newsletter or head over to the website later in the month, and then you're able to win a trip over to Sri Lanka. All costs paid. Well, not all costs, but the travel is included. Most costs are paid. Well, that's the good news to start the year. What are the most popular stories on Gravel Union last month?
I figured between Christmas and New Year, most people are probably on holiday, so we didn't run a huge amount of stories, but I went for quality rather than quantity this time. And we were contacted probably back in October by a German bikepacker called Nora Batterman, who sent in a link to a blog that she writes, and she'd been riding in the UK bikepacking here, and it was beautifully written and really poetic and really just inspirational to read. And so straight away I got in touch and said, I really love what you've done. Would you be interested in doing another story for us? And she said that she'd been bikepacking last summer all through the Balkan region, and she had a story that she hadn't done anything with yet. It was in her brain, but she hadn't written it up. And would we be interested in it? And so I jumped at the chance. So that was what was published last week. And it's the story of her adventures riding. It was a really long trip through a lot of the different countries in the Balkan region. finishing in the end in back into Italy, into Trieste, I think. And it's brilliant. It's beautifully illustrated, and it's really, really well written. And because her English is phenomenal, but she's written it in German and in English for us, so any of our German speaking readers can see it on the German language Gravel Union site, and there's also an English version for everybody
It's really
else. It's really worth checking out.
Well crafted article. It's and also nice. The Balkan area is. I don't think that it's so well known. So
exactly
beautiful,
and the scenery looks incredible. It's really inspirational. So that was one big story, and then the other one we ran was something totally different, written by Erwin Sickens, who is a good friend of ours. He rides for the Shimano Gravel Alliance. He's a super keen gravel rider and a bike packer and a blogger and all the rest of it. But the big change in his life last year was that he became a dad, and so he's written a really, really fun, interesting, insightful piece about what it's like when your life is turned upside down with the arrival of a baby, and how the hell you juggle family life with wanting to still ride your bike.
Interesting to see that.
It's brilliant. He's done a great job.
Interesting to see that, that angle, because we did see Evan quite a lot last year, but not as much as we did previously, because any event he was you saw him, but Nora is in his life and Carly's life, so things changed. But I think he's balancing everything quite well together with his.
It sounds like they've worked out a really good system, so that because his wife is really keen gravel rider as well, trying to balance keeping both of them happy and keeping their daughter happy and not going mad. It's a hell of a juggle, but it seems like they've worked out a good system. So it's if for anyone that's either considering becoming a parent or is already a parent, it's definitely worth reading.
Inspirational for new dads.
Exactly.
And mums. Let's head over to our main guest of the day, Mr. Dean, James Dean. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. Like Ollie, I'm here in the UK and very grumpy about the weather.
Things will get better eventually. We always start the conversation with our main guest, with an introduction. Maybe you could do a short introduction of yourself, James.
So I'm James, and I am the global operations manager for Grinduro, which really entails managing the day-to-day of the events and liaising with sponsors and media.
Okay, and what is your past in gravel riding?
Gravel riding for me, I've probably been riding it since about 2012, when it really wasn't a thing. I used to ride a lot of cross-country marathon races and did a lot of training on the road and gravel tracks, and then these weird bikes started to appear from America, like drop bar mountain bikes, and I thought, that looks like a bit of fun. So my first one I built up was like a bit of a beast of an old hardtail mountain bike with some drop bars grafted on it, and then eventually real gravel bikes became a thing, and I got my first one in about 2015 and was totally hooked.
Is it definitely pronounced Grinduro, isn't it? It's not Grinduro, because we've heard you get a mixture of pronunciations, but I think you ought to clear up what is the definitive pronunciation first of all.
We're easy with it. Originally, the concept was that it was part gravel grinder, part mountain bike enduro. So perhaps the official term would be Grinduro. Grinduro has appeared recently, and I like it. It sounds like there's a big grin on people's faces, which is what we like to see on the courses. So yeah, I'm happy with either. I actually quite like Grinduro.
And how did you get involved with them in the beginning?
Totally by luck. So I was doing a lot of gravel bike races in 2016 to around 2019, and went to my first Grinduro. Must have been 2018, Grinduro Scotland. Really enjoyed it, and then there's always a wild party after the event, and I started talking to the guys that had drawn up the concept, And let's say we hit it off. I started sharing maybe constructive criticisms and they liked them. And then fast forward to the pandemic, and they reached out to me and said, hey, how would you like to work with us on Grinduro? Which at the time seemed really awkward because none of us could go out and do anything. But there was a lot of background work to be doing with Grinduro, with marketing and working on the website. And then eventually we were able to get out and do events again. And 2021 was the first time that I officially got out, did a Grinduro. My first one was Grinduro Switzerland. And since then I've been traveling around with the Grinduro circus around the world, making sure that it runs like clockwork and everyone's having a great time.
It sounds like a dream job.
It can be. It's it involves a lot of jet lag and a lot of hard work in between and occasionally not much sleep. But yeah, it's good fun. When everything's working right, I've always got a big smile on my face.
What is the big difference? Because Grinduro has like this typical format that they use all around the world. What's so special about the format of Grinduro?
I think the main thing that's special about Grinduro is that ultimately it doesn't take itself all that seriously. It's the concept was drawn up as the kind of ride you do with your best buddies on a Saturday. So it's very social. You have one big long loop of mixed terrain, which can consist of anything from gravel, paved roads, and sometimes some mountain bike style trails. And then we have these 4-time sections. And the idea here is that they should be as close to what you do on a group ride with your buddies, where you see a big hill and you'll push each other and see who gets to the top first. Get to the top, hang out, wait for your friends, laugh at each other, and keep on rolling. So Grinduro's taken that concept to heart, and that's really what we try to take around the world with us. So you can go around these courses as fast or as slow as you like. You get to the time stages, and again, if you really want to go for it and try and get yourself a podium place, then yeah, push real hard. Or just challenge yourself, or maybe just roll down it and have a laugh.
And it's a weekend, right?
It's a weekend. So originally Grinduro started off as a one-day event, and it was great back in 2015 when this was new and fresh. As the series has grown, we've wanted to bring more elements to it, and of course music is a big passion for all of us involved with Grinduro. So the idea was to fuse it with a festival style weekend event. So it all starts on the Friday afternoon with a Schwalbe sponsored shakedown ride, which is like a warm up for the big event on Saturday, which is when you have your main Grinduro. And that can be roughly 100 kilometers, those 4-time stages, and it's a long day. I mean, some people may scoff at it being a relatively short distance overall, but we have some big hills in these events, and there's a lot of messing around and fun and food and interesting activations as you ride around and interact with the sponsors at these events. Then Saturday night, there's more food, music, more crazy activities. We've had some great experiences with Wahoo, with their turbo trainer challenges, and they can go on all through the night with a lot of shouting and hollering. Grinduro is probably not the place to go if you want to have a good night's sleep. Put it that way.
The party is as important as the riding, isn't it? I think.
Absolutely, yeah. It's 50% party, 50% race. And then on Sunday, we take things relatively relaxed. There's a lot of sore heads, so we'll have a leisurely breakfast and then go out for a social ride before getting back to camp, breaking down our tents and saying farewell to the new and old friends that we've met along the way.
So the party to race ratio is really, really important. It's like a 50-50 balance?
Everyone has their own party to race ratio, but I think these days I'm old and slow on a bike, so it's more 80% party for me.
We've heard an apocryphal story, James, talking of partying, about Switzerland and how you discovered a love of gardening at 1 o'clock in the morning. Is this story, does it have an element of truth to it at all, or is this completely fabricated by your detractors?
I'm very embarrassed to say that it is entirely true. Grinduro, Switzerland it coincided with my birthday, and it was after lockdown, and it was the first time I'd been released from the cage. Let's say I certainly enjoyed myself that night and thought, okay, it's time to find where my hotel is and get some sleep. But I never found the hotel. In fact, I was rudely awoken in the morning, bright and early on Sunday, by a very angry Swiss gentleman who was prodding me with a broom.
And you were face down in his prize vegetable patch or something, were you?
No, he certainly wasn't happy with finding an Englishman laid out in his garden on Sunday morning. I'm never going to live that one down.
Nope. You're just making sure that the party to race ratio was done correctly.
Well, hopefully everyone followed my lead.
I'm sure they did. I'm sure they did. The amount of events, because it's globally, there are events all over the world. How's the calendar for 2024?
2024 is shaping up really well. We've got 6 events. The first one is Germany in May, and then we go to Pennsylvania for our third visit to the east coast of the USA. And then we hop back over to Europe for our first ever visit to France, which is looking really exciting. It's in the Vosges region. And with the weather in June, I think that's going to be a fantastic event. Then we're back over to the US, to California, which is the spiritual home of Grinduro. It's where it started in 2015, in beautiful Mount Shasta. And that is an amazing place for anyone that's ever been to North California and knows the area well. It's stunning, and the riding there is great. Then we have a little break for the summer before heading over to Italy for some more fun in the Tuscan sunshine. And then we wrap things up in Japan in October. And that Japan for me is... my eyes were on stalks when I went there for the first time. It's an incredible place. The people are fantastic, and it's just the best place to finish your year of gravel cycling.
How do you decide each year where you're going to hold events and which ones, if you're going to try new ones, how do you decide where? And for example, picking Vosges region of France, France is a heck of a big place. So what made you choose that particular area?
Well, I'm certainly no geographical wizard. So Grinduro works very closely with regional promoters in each area. And we'll talk to many different organisations that all want to pitch their ideas and proposals for what Grinduro should look like. So we go through the big mailbag and see what's in there. Sometimes something will jump out at us and go, oh, this looks really interesting. We also work very closely with our sponsors, and if they have a particular interest in a certain geographical region, then that's where we'll concentrate our efforts. There's many places that we'd love to take Grinduro to, for sure. And also there's a lot of people out there that are screaming out at us to bring Grinduro to them. But there's only so much we can do in a year. So we carefully pick and choose where we want to go. And as people have probably noticed, we don't stay in an area and wear ourselves out. You know, it's a bit like a famous rock band where you don't want to just plod on and fade away. You want to finish on a crescendo, and that, for example, is why we've now left the UK for a while, because we've been there for 6 years. We've had a lot of fun, but it's time to try it out somewhere else and have some fresh experiences.
Is it because, you know, I think, well, it's originally an American concept. It started off in California.
Yeah.
Is it difficult to get people enthusiastic in new countries? Is it that well known already, or do you still have to work on the promotion of it?
It varies. So Japan, for example, we don't really have to promote ourselves at all over there. They follow social media. They've seen the buzz coming from California, and that will sell out very quickly. Other regions, especially more in Europe, where maybe they're not quite so focused on the American gravel scene, we have to work much harder and liaise with media like yourself and ambassadors and the brands that we partner up with to promote them harder. Italy, for example, they certainly did not understand the concept of Grinduro when we went there for the first time last year. And their eyes were on stalks for those curious pioneers that did come and attend the event. It was as they told me, that they did not expect it.
Yeah, because it's really, really different to your standard gravel events.
Absolutely. And you guys would probably hate me for saying this, but for me, traditional gravel can get really boring. My idea of riding a long, straight, endless gravel road, I think I'd just fall off the bike and go to sleep. Perhaps one of the key things about Grinduro and the founders is we all came from a mountain biking background. So when gravel bikes came on the scene, we were like, oh, these are great fun. I wonder what they're like on single track. And we started messing around, falling off, laughing. And it's true that Grinduro likes to try and test the boundaries of what's possible with drop bar bikes.
But do you see a mix of mountain bikers and gravel riders in the audience, or?
We certainly do. And there's still a big argument of what's the best bike for Grinduro.
What is the best bike?
What is the best bike? Well, for me, it would have to be a drop bar bike with chunky tires, 40 to 45s. The idea of using a hardtail mountain bike means you can get a lot more wild on the single track sections of the course, but you're going to have a hard time on those paved sections and some of the long gravel.
So it really is a mix of all kinds of terrain. So that's also the format. It's a getting together of two worlds, mountain biking and gravel riding.
Absolutely. And for me, that's fun. Unusually, we do occasionally see some people rock up on road bikes, and we know they're going to have a hard time. But most of the time, they come back with a big smile on their face and admit that they're underbiked.
I was lucky enough to go out to California in 2021 and ride the event there. And I absolutely loved it, but I could not believe the mix of trails and actually how hard some of the single track was just the best woodland single track I've ever ridden. And then you kept thinking, I'm doing this on a drop bar gravel bike. I'm not on a full suspension mountain bike. And it was pretty gnarly, but the buzz, you got to the end of a section and you could feel people, they're just endorphins coming out their ears at how much fun they'd had. And actually half the fun is being on the wrong bike and pushing yourself a bit and thinking, I have got the skills to do this, but it's probably, I'm definitely underbiked for some of the course. And it's a challenge, but it's a good challenge, isn't it? It is part of the fun of doing it.
That's exactly it. You'll always see that of people just somewhat overwhelmed of what they're riding their gravel bikes on. There was one guy that came to me. He says, I ride these trails all the time on my mountain bike, which is a 120mm full suspension. I wouldn't dream of coming down here on a gravel bike, and yet I've had the most fun today that I've ever had. And it's stuff like that is what we want to do with Grinduro. I've got to emphasize that we are careful with where we go when it comes to single track, because we don't want people to be falling off and ending up in hospital. and a lot of the time the trails we pick, they become more challenging the more speed you put into it. So if you're definitely not the most confident off-road cyclist, then fret not. There's the trails we choose are easy to ride if you just go at a slower pace. And of course, and I'll put my hand up here myself and say there's no shame if you need to get off and walk a section, just do it.
Sometimes you put in an A line and a B line as well, don't you, to give riders choice of if there's one particular feature that you think not everybody will enjoy. That certainly happened in California. There were a couple of bits you could choose which line you took.
Yep, definitely. There's always some options. I mean, if you are gung-ho and really want to go for the podium, then yeah, you got to go for those A lines. But if, like me, and you just want to go off and have fun for the day, then there's no shame in taking those B lines at all. Sometimes they're more fun. They're a lot more faster and swoopier.
It's not just about the riding either, is it? The food is a big part of it, and is something that really differentiates it from other events. And in the California one, we did this amazing swoopy descent down through the forest, came into a kind of a woodland car park, and there was all the food stands were there, and they were making pancakes. And it had, who's Mark Weir, the American gravel racer and mountain bike racer, was in charge of making pancakes, and everybody, you could just have as much as you wanted, made fresh on the spot, and there was fresh juice, and there was all sorts of amazing things, but they were really local. So it is, as a Brit going, I suppose, like you going to Japan, you get to try something that's culturally significant locally and very different to what you might find at home. So you're not going to find in the UK somebody making maple syrup pancakes in the middle of the woods, but at Grinduro in California, that was pretty, just nobody seemed to bat an eyelid about it.
Yeah, I know. It's maybe that's just a regular thing that happens when you're riding your bike in the woods. You come around a corner and there's a guy handing out free pancakes. It's sounds like the dream for me. But
it was the dream, exactly it.
Because there are always surprise stops, aren't there?
There's always a surprise. Grinduro loves to have an element of surprise. It could be food. It could be some live music in the woods. There's all sorts of weird things. Our friends that organised the event in Pennsylvania are certainly some of the wackiest people I've had the pleasure of working with, and they've had rock skimming challenges, even crazy golf. So you came off the trail, you rounded a corner, and there's a sign pointing you into this mini golf course, and you're like, what the hell are we doing now? Get off your bike, play a round of golf, win yourself an ice cream, carry on with the Grinduro. Name me another bike race that has that element of surprise to it, because I can't think of one. And yeah, for me, that's one of the big things about Grinduro that I think we do a lot differently.
What's the biggest surprise that you ever encountered on a Grinduro event?
As a rider,
crazy golf sounds like it must be up there.
It's not something that you expect.
It was it was alcohol. It was California again, and there was a whiskey tasting session. I did hear that quite a few people never really ventured much further on the course beyond that. They thought, hey, this is nice, sunshine, whiskey, I'm staying here. I was sorely tempted, but at 11 a.m. it was a little too early to get into a big session for me.
I had a few examples from the US. Well, originally it's from the US, but what are is the format exactly the same in Japan and in Europe? Does it differ somewhere?
Fairly rigid in the route and the 4 time stages, but we try to have more regional elements. So rather than take the flavor of America and stick it in Japan, what we want to do is, concentrate on their cultural heritage and regional elements. One thing with Grinduro, we like to interact with the local community, and if there's local brands, producers, craft whiskey makers or sake, we'll knock on their door and say, hey, we're coming to town in a few weeks' time and we're having a big bike party. Why don't you get involved? And that's probably one of the elements that we do differently. rather than just bringing that same.
Is it like a big village where people gather when on the venue?
Yeah, so all Grinduro off-bike activities sort of focus around the main village area where we have the sponsoring brands and the food stalls, the music. That's where you wander around, you mingle, you bump into people you'll make some new friends, and you'll find those surprises and wacky elements of the local producers that come and attend these events.
Which event are you looking forward to the most from for this year? Are you allowed to have a favourite?
Yeah, but maybe I shouldn't say which one's my favourite.
Why not?
Well, maybe I should. I'm very excited about Italy for many reasons. The riding's great, the food's great, the people and the weather. Also, I'm really looking forward to France. Being a fresh event and seeing what we can do there. I think I mentioned this earlier, but it's always interesting when you get the newcomers to Grinduro and how they respond to it. And for us, going to France for the first time is going to be quite an experience.
Well, Italy's end of September. France is going to be in June, right?
That's right.
So yeah, Olly, we will also be there because we're partnering up with Grinduro this year. So we'll be there. So you will see the Gravel Union booth also, and maybe we'll pitch in some little present for people visiting us at the event. Talking about presents,
it's just an excuse for us to get out of the office, isn't it?
Absolutely. Talking about presents, it's well known that you really get a lot of, everybody talks about the goodie bag, but it's a lot of things come in for free at Grinduro.
There's a lot of free stuff. Yeah, it starts with your food on Saturday. You have breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and you get a really cool goodie bag, which is full of great swag from all our sponsors, such as Shimano and Wahoo and Pro and Schwalbe. So always
and Gravel Union, I think.
Yeah, well,
and Gravel Union, yes,
we still have to do the negotiations on the goodie. You challenge also your sponsors to get really creative, rather than doing your everybody knows the water bottles that you get. It's more than just your water bottle.
100%, yeah. But to be a sponsor of Grinduro, you definitely don't want to just rock up and put 2 flags in the ground and a little booth and then stand there in the sun for the weekend. We want them to interact and have as much fun as the riders, and that means getting out on course, doing something wacky and unique, or like Olly mentioned earlier, have some of your ambassadors such as Mark Weir making pancakes for the riders, and that goes to the prizes that they give out too. So a water bottle, I think everyone's already got them on the bike, so we'll ask the brands to think about something outside the box. That might even be something that isn't bike related. It's great to have some keepsakes. I've got some fantastic key rings I take around with me now that are years old from some of the first Grinduros, and they're things that I always hold on to and cherish, and hopefully other riders do too.
One of the things that you get at some of the events, James, is a special beer to celebrate the event, a kind of a commemorative one that's been brewed specially for it, which is a really great souvenir and tastes good as well, hopefully.
Totally. It's always nice to work with these local producers and make something unique with the Grinduro brand that people can drink and cherish. I've actually got some of the old beer bottles on a shelf, no longer containing beer, but there's memories to them.
How difficult is it to attract sponsors to the event? Because presumably a good chunk of your work is trying to make sure that the business is viable and that you have got enough support coming in. How do you explain Grinduro to a sponsor, and how do you get them involved instead of just putting an advert in a magazine or an advert on a website? What do you say to them to convince them to come and sponsor an event actually in person instead?
Thankfully, a lot of cycling industry people have been to a Grinduro now and experienced it for themselves, and they've gone back to the office and and spoke to the marketing teams and say, hey, have you heard about Grinduro? And like, yeah, we've heard about Grinduro. And so the hard work typically is done for me. But like the rest of the industry right now, everyone's struggling. Grinduro does need money in order to operate. It's a dirty word, but yeah, we need it. And for sure, it's more challenging this year than it's ever been. We still have some very faithful brands that stick by us. They love the format. And as they say to me, they don't get that experience at other events. One of the key things that we have is a real infused audience. And that, for a lot of brands, is invaluable.
Actually meeting their customers and answering questions and showing them what they do, and also giving the customers insight into the products that they're using on their bikes as well. It's something you can't get from a magazine ad or an advert on the web.
Totally. I think if a brand does it right, then they're having a great time. It's part party, part market research for them, and getting that feedback directly from riders that are really enthusiastic about the bikes they ride and the products they buy. You know, it's hard to find that anywhere outside of something like Grinduro or another key cycling event. You won't find it at a trade show.
Absolutely.
Are you? How far in advance do you work? Are you already considering where you're going to go next year, for example? And is there anything you can whet our appetite with for 2025 and beyond, or is it all still top secret?
Oh, I don't want to give anything away.
But presumably you are always thinking about where are we going next? How are we going to make it different, or what can we do to keep it fresh?
Absolutely. You know, we're still really bummed that we were never able to take Grinduro to Australia. It felt like that event was cursed for us. We had fires, we had COVID, we had landslides. But
were
for
all
sure,
editions cancelled then in Australia?
All events were cancelled in Australia, and it's really sad because the riding out there certainly is fantastic. I think in the future we'll certainly be tripping back down and making an event happen in the Southern Hemisphere for sure. Another place that I'd love to revisit is Canada. To take Grinduro to the West Coast would be fantastic, and watch this space maybe one day.
How are your air miles doing? Because you travel all around.
Yes, I was gonna say you must spend a lot of time flying.
How many miles did you do last year? Because you go to all the events.
I go to all the events, yes, and air miles. Yeah, I'll have to have a look.
Plenty.
Is there a lot of difference between working on different continents? What are specifics that you like Japan, for example? Where are things different to the States or Europe?
One thing that's always the same is people's passion for cycling, and because we have that shared interest, that it just makes work a lot easier. There are challenges with languages and sometimes there's culture clashes, but when it comes to Grinduro, everyone's there doing the same thing and working towards the same goal. So typically, there's been nothing too hard. It's just finding my way around some of these countries. Japan was a real challenge. Rocking up in Tokyo for the first time ever and then working out how I get my bag and my bike onto the bullet train and the right train and go in the right direction, and then find a bus. Things like that can be tough.
On the different continents, is there like always the same mix of people from abroad and local people, or are there expats, like for example that know the event and that live in Japan and go to this event?
For sure, there is a lot of US forces based in Japan serving out there that are seen, heard, and previously attended Grinduros in California, and saw that this was not too far for them to go to, and they're like, yeah, we're having a piece of that. We also have some hardcore riders that do like to try and get to all the events. There's a few familiar faces that I'll bump into when you least expect to see them, and it's like, wow, you've come all the way out here for this? That's great.
I should think the European rounds attracted a wider range of nationalities because it's so much easier to travel to them as well. I mean, the Germany one is so close to the border of Holland and Belgium, isn't it? You can imagine people just hopping over the border to go.
Oh, for sure. Yes, there's a lot of Carlo's friends that come to Germany. There's a lot of Dutch
it's just across the
accents.
border, so it's not that far.
It's also easy from the UK. That's one there I certainly don't use air miles for. It's a nice easy drive from the UK to get to Hellenthal, and the riding there is fantastic too. It's certainly looking forward to that in May.
Because you mentioned that you're mixing up things. You're leaving the UK. You've been there for 6 years. What is the response? Because, like you said, it's easier to just cross the channel and go to Germany or France, which is not a too long a ride. Why did you decide to change that over this year?
Well, we did 3 years in Scotland, followed by 3 years in Wales. Options on the plate were find somewhere else in the UK, but we thought no, it's time to try somewhere new, and France is a huge country. There's a lot of variety in its riding. It's easily accessible from the UK and Germany, rest of Europe. So we thought, why not? Let's give that a go.
Yeah,
And the Vosges is beautiful. It's perfect scenery, isn't it, for riding? It's really spectacular. Good weather, nice food. It ticks lots of boxes.
Absolutely.
You went there for the ride gravel. That's where we met up, Olly, in the Vosges.
Indeed.
So it's challenging, but it's really really nice. A lot of forests also. So it's gonna be fun. Maybe when you look at the event and well, can you guide people through a day in Grinduro?
A day in the life of Grinduro. Well, officially it will start on the Friday. You'll turn up with your friends in the afternoon, pitch your tent, sign on, maybe get yourself warmed up for the Schwalbe shakedown ride. There's an opportunity there to win some cool prizes and get yourself into the Grinduro groove. Nothing too taxing, roughly 15 kilometers, so purely just a warm up. And then grab some food, sit down, listen to some ambassador talks or live music. Fridays tend to be pretty chilled because everyone knows there's a big ride on the Saturday, so everyone gets their head down early. Saturday morning, bright and early, get some breakfast into you, get ready. 9 o'clock roughly for a relaxed rolling start out onto the Grinduro course. You can expect there'll be 2 time stages in the morning. Then you'll pull up for lunch. Again, nice and relaxed. Maybe some more music playing in the background just to add that atmospheric vibe. And then back out into the afternoon. 2 more time stages. Yeah, typically we'll have a single track stage in the afternoon, keep things rowdy, and then you'll come back late afternoon, grab your dinner, get changed, more music, talk to people about the madness that you'd experienced out on course and some of those unusual sights and experiences that our sponsors could have put on during the event. And then, hang out, chill, grab one of those special Grinduro beers that Olly mentioned, and enjoy the evening.
With a small party.
Hopefully you won't wake up in anyone's garden.
Oh, yeah.
And Sunday, grab some breakfast and just go on what we call the hangover ride and have a chill time before packing up and heading home. Plan your next Grinduro.
Sounds like a good weekend.
I believe that the mixture of like you see with many events, that it's mostly a little older age groups that are present. I think that the Grinduro is also really really popular with younger riders in their 20s and in their 30s rather than in their 40s. And is there a difference there, or how do you see that?
Yeah, for sure. We definitely get a real mix of ages. It's not just rad dads and moms. It's we do see a lot of mid-20, early 30s. For sure, the biggest demographic is 35 to 40. And we do have a few silver foxes come and really race these events and
I like that, Ollie. I like that.
tear the legs off of us younger guys.
And you also, because I noticed that there are some really well-known riders. Mark Weir was already mentioned. Carlos Verona was on an event. How are they invited by sponsors? Do they get to visit the event themselves because they like it?
Yeah, we do have some surprise celebrity riders turn up to Grinduros, past and present. Tiffany Cromwell's and another cool name that I saw on an entry list, and it's like, wow, that's cool.
She was in California the year that I was out there.
Yeah. Normally they'll come with sponsors, but there are a few that know the concept, and if it works with their race calendar, and they're allowed to come to Grinduro, not breaking any contractual rules, then they'll rock up. There's been a few that have turned up under pseudonyms, but they soon have their cover blown. They're recognised.
Because
So if you turn up, Carlo, you got to come in disguise, otherwise everybody will know who you are.
Yes, I try to. But the race element of it's not that important, is it? I mean, it's a race, but it's not a race.
Yeah, totally. It's a race if you want it to be.
What's the biggest prize there is to win? A wooden plank with the number 1 on it.
Yes, yeah. There's definitely some wood available.
Trophies are very cool, actually, aren't they? The ones that I've seen, you get different trophies in each country, kind of locally produced ones.
Yeah, there's also some cool sponsor prizes as well. So if you're not totally stoked on wooden planks, then there's still some cool stuff to take home with you, for sure. I know. When I was younger and doing my first few Grinduros, I was pretty racy, and I'm not anymore. I'm happy to just roll around and have a laugh with everyone, and I forget there's a race going on at times. It's only when someone's coming up behind me going, right up, and I'm like, uh-oh, someone really wants to be coming by fast.
But there are a lot of categories, so you're always able to be in some category.
Totally. There isn't a wake up in the garden category yet, but
there should be.
Otherwise, you'd be on the podium every year.
For sure. I'm gonna
Hands
make
down.
that happen.
Ollie, there's always a famous last question, like the one that we always do. So I would give you the honest of asking it.
Great. Thank you. So yeah, James, we ask all our podcast guests exactly the same question, which is, if they could only have one bike, what would it be and why? And you can make yours Grinduro specific if you want to.
Well, it'd definitely be a gravel bike. You'll be pleased to hear that. Shimano GRX 12 speed would definitely be on my wish list. And for me, some chunky, aggressive tyres, probably a 45, because I think that for me, I'm not winning any races, but I do like to mess around, and single track, that would be perfect for me. I've never really grasped these dropper posts. I've had them on bikes and always forgotten to use them, so no fancy tricks for me. Probably something steel, nice and comfy, and I'll just be cruising around at the back of the pack on that, having a great time.
Are you riding the event yourself, or are you too busy organizing?
I try to ride the events. A lot of the big elements of Grinduro is herding cats throughout the weekend and ensuring that the promoters we work with are doing everything the right way, the Grinduro way. But occasionally things are working slick and I can relax a bit and think, yeah, I'll get out on my bike and ride this.
Excellent. Well, we'll do some riding on the Grinduro events, Ollie. So
certainly will.
We'll meet
Whole
up.
point in going.
Yeah, we'll meet up at the first event in Germany in May. So then we can check it out ourselves. Well, thank you very much, James, for being on this show. We like to call it a show.
Thank you for having me.
Well, let's head over to the outro then. Well, thank you very much, James. Thanks, Ollie, for doing another episode of Gravel Union Talks. If you have any suggestions for guests or topics, you would like us to feature in future shows, then please post a comment on our Facebook page, reach out through Instagram, or send us an email, info@gravelunion.cc. We'll try to do our best to fit it in our schedule. Please like and star us on your favorite podcast platform and make sure to leave some hopefully positive remarks. Don't forget, if you like what you've heard in this episode, there's loads more great stories, features, news pieces and all the latest gravel event information over on the gravelunion.cc website. Special thanks to Martijn for designing our music and Ruben for editing the show. And thank you all for listening, and hope you can join us again for the next episode of Gravel Union Talks. Cheers!